100. Okay. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us with us today to the Digital of Future Supply Chains Powering Proactive and Customer-Centric Decisions by Reuters event in partnership with ServiceNow. I know some people are joining from different time zones, so for those that are from the US region, thank you for waking up this early to join the webinar. I think what would be really great for us to just quickly introduce the panel. So starting with Hussein, Pavel, Rohit, and then Sebastian. Can you please give a quick introduction of yourselves?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. So I'm Oussam Aj. I'm in charge of the supply chain for Forvia. Forvia is a tier one automotive supplier located in Paris.
All right. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I represent a company called Electrolux, and I guess you know us through some brands, Electrolux, AG, Frigidaire. Electrolux has around 50,000 employees, and we serve around 120 countries. So about 60 million products, and the products are the home appliance products. So myself, I'm a part of supply chain organization and work as a group supply chain PMO.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rohit Tripathi. I am part of Grid Dynamics. We are a leading provider of technology consulting, product and platform engineering, and advanced analytics for global enterprises, looking at digital transformation and enhancing processes with enterprise AI and now Gen AI. I'm part of the CTO office, and I head our supply chain practice, but then also the general technology consulting activities as well. Glad to be here.
Thanks, and great to have the opportunity to speak in front of you. My name is Sebastian Larijse. I'm the head of global high-tech manufacturing for ServiceNow. And it may be interesting that ServiceNow has not been yet recognized as one of the major players in manufacturing. However, we re-envision the way how we do business today, the shift of, let's call it, manufacturers into more direct business models, and it should the whole effect on supply chain. And I'm supporting many of our customers in this transformation going forward.
That's perfect. It's actually great that you mentioned that, Seb, because it leads me perfectly into our first questions. If we go from the reverse, starting to the front, can you provide examples of successful manufacturing companies that have transitioned from a product-centric model to a servitization model? And specifically, what were the challenges that they faced during this transformation?
Yeah, it's a simple question, by the way. It's a very broad answer. And I think let me start with the very beginning. It's the cost of, let's call it, silicon, the cost of chips became very, 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 very cheap, right? So price valorization, cost of manufacturing allowed us to manufacture, let's call it, edge devices, edge computing, edge chips. And now we are able to ship T-shirts, washing machines, dishwashers, plates with chips, right? Everything has some kind of a chip into it, and it has an ability to communicate. So everything is communication, everything is data, everything needs to be secure. And I think that's the basic foundation of a quite paradigm shift. Yeah. So we want to make things smart. IoT, industrial IoT, edge computing, all those, let's call it, mark information is now available for every of our, let's call it, customers and manufacturers, allowing them to build use cases that were not able to be, they were not able to deliver upfront, right? So if you go to large truck manufacturers here in the north, they are now having, let's call it, big trucks as a service. We have even customers who are focusing on windmill as a service. We have also, let's call it, automotive devices and as a service. And I think that whole as a service shift is a paradigm shift. Rather than selling a car, we now offer mobility. Rather than having an ability to a smart vacuum cleaner, or there we have smart grids. I think that allows us to make sure that we rather have a customer making decisions. We help the customer to make decisions around maintenance, better quality, driving behaviors. So that whole shift in how you do business and how you organize your supply chain from selling products and having RFPs time and time again, you're now building a customer ecosystem And also from a commercial perspective, create customer stickiness rather than trying to sell from product to product and every design window to fit into their product engineering. And because silicon is becoming so cheap, every device will have the opportunity to become more connected. So in the industries of automotive, hardware, consumer electronics, right? It's about heavy equipment. And even in CPG, where let's call it hyper individualization, because that's one of the terms that will come, becomes even critical across an agnostic industry. On on hardware, automotive, electronics, and heavy equipment, that servitization is a business that will drive cost reduction for our customers. And it is for sure customers related to automotive, truck companies, heavy equipment, and all the things you can find in that perspective.
Perfect. Thank you for that succinct answer. And I think maybe I'll pass on to Rohit to ask, you're talking about big transformation within servitization here. What are the risks that are associated within, modernization and servitization of underlying legacy tech infrastructures for manufacturing companies? And what measures should these manufacturing companies take to mitigate these risks?
Yeah. Listen, if you have the luxury of being a manufacturer that is starting out now, right, and you're starting fresh, of course, you're going to have, the latest, greatest technology infrastructure. Of course, you're going to embed sensors. Of course, they will all be connected and you will have a streamlined data strategy. If you are not thinking about it right now as you're starting out, then clearly something is off, right? But let's focus on the reality of it. And as my colleagues here from Electrolux, they've been there for years, decades. They have seen the infrastructure grow. They have gone from Industrial 1.0, when having continuous running electricity was the benchmark, to now Industry 4.0, right? And that's something that we as Grid, when we engage with our clients, right? That's what we see, that spectrum. And so the first step is get the infrastructure scalable, which aligns with your manufacturing plants and supply chains. And what that means is you need to either get on, one of the cloud infrastructures, like public or private. And then the second part is, thinking about how do you open up those sources of data, right? Connect those. There is information being collected, right? It's nothing new that the machines were collecting data on performance and temperatures and, vibrations and humidity and others. But the real value is tying that data, opening up that, tying it with your systems of record, systems of engagement, and then building insights on top of it, right? So that's something, these are the kind of things that we help do for our clients, right? One, of course, we bring in partners who have the software capabilities, but then the plumbing has to be done, right? And efficiently. So that's, to me, is the first thing that that's the journey. The risk is that often senior management, and my apologies to those in the audience who may be on that, get enamored by the new shiny objects. And what I mean by that is that, you get, let's take, for example, on everybody's mind, and I'm the first one to break the rule of saying the word AI and generative AI on this webinar, right? Everybody is enamored with it, right? Yeah. But the question and it's great, right? Because it drives a lot of productivity, a lot of opportunities for improvement. But unless you have the scalable infrastructure, unless you have the right data lakes built on top of it, you are not going to get a meaningful usage of AI and generative AI. And I think that's the risk, not to be lured by the newest thing and then divert the attention there. It's getting those foundations right. And that's something that I see, us as Grid, having those hard conversations and saying, yes, we can help you do a lot of those POCs. We are doing that, right? But get those foundations right, because that's the long-term value that you will get.
Yeah, I think that's really succinct. And it's nice that obviously you've mentioned Electrolux and kind of them being from the start, and how they've managed to, go through different stages of transformation. If I ask the question to Pavel then. What impact does digitalization have on supply chain management and logistics within the manufacturing industries? And how have you seen, obviously from your experience, the companies adapt to their supply chain strategies to support this?
Right, I guess I need to start with the strategy itself.
Yeah.
And our supply chain strategy, our supply chain vision, is speaking for itself. Probably it's called become consumer-driven supply chain network. And in each of these elements, of course, there is a meaning. So we are focusing on the consumers, right? That's the first part, because we're selling, as Sebastian said, we're selling not even solutions. In this case, we're selling experiences, or our products create experiences for the consumers. So that's what we want to achieve. And supply chain is one of the key players in all this as well, in creating these experiences, right? And especially considering the complexity of the network where we operate, because our playground consists of three, at least in Electrolux, three supply chains, if we want. One of them is the products that we build internally. The other one is the products that we source from our contracted manufacturer, we call it OEM. And the third one is after sales as well. So these are the three distinct supply chain networks. And plus with that, we operate in two business models, if you want, addressing the B2B customers, where we work with business partners, and at the same time also focusing on D2C channel, which we're developing quite a lot as well, and focusing a lot on this as well. So we are facing consumers directly now. So, and we know that both B2B and D2C have specific requirements or expectations from the organizations, from supply chain these days as well. So everyone is looking for reliability. So in this case, it can be product availability, or sort of fast and delivery, or promise days accuracy. So this kind of information, the information that we provide to the consumers or customers, has to be reliable. So that's what they expect. They expect speed, short lead times, fast delivery, fast returns. Yeah. They expect also fast information exchange between each partners. And also in terms of services, the package is increasing every day, if you want, what the consumers or customers expect in these days. Also from supply chain, it also puts a lot of pressure and challenges on us as well to capture these needs and insights from the consumers as well. Requires us to be close to them. So they, the services vary from simple installation or repair, or maybe, the products needs to be developed for self services. So they need to allow some kind of self installation or these kind of things. At the same time, like when we speak, for instance, about business partners, they also expect some integrations between, us and them, so that we have this quick information exchange as well. And that comes to what Brahit says, like all these requirements, they require all these expectations. They require us, to have the right infrastructure. When it comes to data information exchange, this needs certain infrastructure in the company. So on that comes to the digitalization, and all these requirements, they drive the the digitalization agenda in supply chain as well. We have to be more efficient, fast, automated, and create eventually all these great experiences for our consumers that they want to receive. So digitalization these days is a key word, and it's on top of our agenda as well, of course, in Electrolux.
Thank you for that. Just sticking on kind of that theme of digitalization, but maybe going on to another scope. Sam, if you can answer in, how can implementing digitalization in your supply chain help to reach those ESG and green sustainability targets?
The sustainability, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, before speaking about it, maybe just let me speak about the purpose of the supply chain, the aim of the supply chain. So why we are here? Actually, we are here to do four things. Number one, to improve the service to the customer. Number two, to reduce the cost. Number three, to reduce the inventory. And number four is the point you are mentioning, reducing the CO2. In the automotive, the 3 points are extremely important because we have a lot of pressure on the inventory in the cost because of the electrification. And we have also a lot of pressure in the CO2 because of, the situation of this industry. So how we utilize the digital? I think it's like Rohit said, we don't use the digital for the sake of using digital. We are not kind of in admiration for the digital. We use it when it's needed, and we use it when we have the foundation. So for example, for the CO2, today, with all this digital, we are able to assess more precisely the CO2 emission. So we have a connection with the freight forwarder, we have connection with some logistic service provider, and we are able to define the CO2 level. But also, we are able to have kind of simulation. What if we increase the fill rate? What if we change the network design and so on? So we do utilize the digital for the sustainability for two purposes. Number one, the assessment of the CO2 level. Number two, the reduction by making those simulation and finding the best compromise in terms of, network, in terms of truck and so on.
Perfect. And I think I'll just jump back to you, Pavel, to pose the question. So sustainability and environment, obviously there are concerns increasingly important in the business landscape. How does servitization actually align with those sustainability goals in manufacturing? What are the potential benefits of reduced waste and reduced resource usage?
Yeah. Well, sustainability is one of the core values for the company, for Electrolux. So among the core values, we have act sustainably, then create these great experiences, and always improve. So these are the core values of Electrolux, and act sustainably comes on the first place. So for us, it is really one of the key topics that we cover in our even communication with the consumers as well, and they appreciate this. We see that the appreciation comes very high. With that, we also, when it comes to the services, we first, of course, we educate the consumers in this area. So, for instance, recently we published a new report about washing in this 30 degrees temperature, just educating the consumers that yes, it's actually pretty good results happening on this 30 degrees temperature as well. So do not need to use a lot more electricity, or also in some cases you can probably achieve the same good results with shorter washing cycles, for instance. So this kind of things we are publishing regularly. That in Electrolux we have focus areas where we do this kind of researches. Then of course, in addition to that, there are topics on the agenda like green trucks deliveries, for instance, for our consumers, or some other services within this supply chain and logistics. And also Sam has mentioned some of it. So we integrate with our partners to measure the CO2 impact. We also do some simulation. In this case, we have constantly tracking the CO2 impact coming from the ocean operations, from our logistics operations as well. So these topics stay strongly in our agenda, of course. Yes.
So Gule, if you would allow me, right? So a response on that one, maybe from a more like for manufacturing perspective. Like servitization, there are two things with, right? So consumer behavior is significantly shifting. They don't accept you to do landfill anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
We accepted that a specific device went up for 1.5 years. It's now 3, 5, or even longer, right? We don't accept an IT device to fail within 5 or 7 years. Mm-hmm. We do a significant shift in consumer behavior that they have a sustainability mindset. However, that also means that, for example, manufacturers cannot keep increasing their prices. So they cannot increase that for what they paid for in the past for a simple kitchen device, will pay the same of twice or 4 times as much, right? So that's very difficult. So that means that anyhow, we're going to sustainable manufacture. So we're going to use good materials at the right place, at the right cost, with at the right, let's call it humanities, etc. So I think that's very important. However, there needs to be a significant shift then also, okay, what would be then a different source of revenue for, let's call it manufacturers or who are selling into it. That means that they can differentiate, for example, on subscription services or add-ons that you could leverage from the product. It could be, you can think about it, but it will serve the customer with, for example, additional information, more customization, more individual. But if I'm thinking about the manufacturing perspective, that allows also to simplify the manufacturing supply chain. Why? Because the amount of product families you're going to sell and need to maintain is no longer differentiating on the hardware. Sure, you will still have a different truck that can carry more weight, but you can still unlock features that only comes available if you subscribe to the feature. Now, I'm driving an American car in Europe, then you know which brand it is, but I can enable the back seat heating by software subscription, right? I could increase my driving assistance by subscription services. But at the end, the device that's being manufactured is one single device. Yes, there are some differences on product families, but the amount of product families that a manufacturer needs to maintain are significantly less, improving their supply chain, but also because the product families are less, is also able to sustain your supply chain in a way better way than you did before. So servitization seems like a very simple element, but the impact at the front end, the customer behavior, but the whole supply chain is really significant. And this is a trend I see about many, many manufacturers who need to deal with this challenge.
So thank you actually for jumping in, Seb, because it leads nicely onto my next question. You've alluded to some of the challenges, but if you can speak a little bit more about some of the cultural and organizational challenges that manufacturing companies might encounter when transitioning to servitization business model, and specifically how they can potentially overcome these challenges.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? So let me just, I'm gonna sketch some customer experience I have. So this is not from a ServiceNow perspective, but I was talking to a large truck company here in Europe, and they are selling specific gearings, right? So specific setups. And the specific factory owner could decide to buy an additional additional machine who can manufacture, or he could buy next-gen AI capabilities with deep learning, machine learning to optimize his factory, reduce waste, and become less efficient, right? So the budget required to make a factory more lean and optimize supply chain using AI capabilities, or just buying additional system, building out some structural components, etc., put some additional work into it, additional workstation. So without any discrimination, right, the individual decided to buy the additional machine because he knew by buying the additional machine, he could predict the outcomes. He knew that he would get additional capacity. So we have done this for years, and we now need to do it with a digital way that often underpins a lot of, let's call it, unseen promises not being delivered. Historical evidence and experience that software makes life more complex than easy is still something that drives into the environment. Of course, AI or other things like servitization are being seen as the big job killers, right? But it's not the case. It's only a shift of your organization into new roles, new capabilities, new organizations. And I think that's what we become seeing, that what in previous a car manufacturer was a mechanical manufacturer, it now becomes a digital chassis. And I think that's where you see as a big shift. And you need to make sure that you are mindful about equipping the right individuals, but we shouldn't underestimate the importance of domain knowledge, and often that are with senior individuals. And I think that's where we do see its knowledge, its skills, its competences, its unclarity about the future, its ambiguity of the change. And therefore, you need to make sure that the change willingness, the change ability, and the change readiness is being focused upon as three of the big pillars. And that's about competences, about contracts, it's about clarity on the change and what's in it for me. As long as it's not clear what's in it for me, no one are open to change because they will show resistance for that. And I think being mindful about that, and I can talk about change management, I think for 6 hours or 10 hours as a webinar, but capturing it into 3 pivots, make sure your people are ready by the right skills and competences. Make sure that you are clear about the future, how it would look like when you are doing the change and through the change and during the change. And be clear about, how you make sure you are ready for evolving into this new future. And that's very, very important, because at the end, still, I would like to be taken at the hand by people who understand how the new future would potentially look like, rather than I need to guess it, because if I need to guess, I potentially are reluctant to step into the change.
Perfect. Thank you for that succinct answer. And I think I'm just going to touch back to Rohit again. You know, in the context of servitization, how important is that role of technology such as Internet of Things and I don't want to say the buzzword AI, data analytics, especially when it comes to optimizing service delivery and creating new revenue streams?
I mean, it's the foundation, right? So think about it, right? Like I'll give you a spectrum. In one case, we were actually working with a large manufacturer of teeth aligners, right? Like these are things that you buy, and their issue was, given that this is something that you put in your mouth, right? And so what they want to make sure is, as they are manufacturing it, right? A big driver of servitization or customer satisfaction is that it should be free of, any defects, more importantly, contaminants, right? Even a tiny piece of hair or like something which falls into the manufacturing process into the aligner, right? And so we worked with them in building like a visual defect tracking and reduction method. And what that meant was, if they did not have IoT, right, like they would not be able to have those signals out of those machines. And then they had computer vision. And so we were able to then take those images, right? Like, and then comes the issue of how do you train those images, right? Like, I mean, it's an image of a dental aligner being manufactured, right? It's not like you can go into the internet and scrape the internet and say, okay, show me all the dental aligners and all the defects that can come in it, right? Like, so you have to train those models. And so those are the kind of things that we did. Now, think about that, right? Like that drove not just inventory down for them because there was less wastage, but the other part was greater customer satisfaction, right? So that's one end of the spectrum, right? Where IoT and machine computer vision was just being used at a very factory level. And then the other case now related to AI and actually some of the Gen AI capabilities, that's something that we're working with the European tire manufacturer. Given that they had all of these infrastructures put in already, they've now gone to the extreme of saying, look, hey, using a mobile phone, because at their service centers, everybody has a mobile phone, can they take a picture of a tire, right? And it allows them to not only get the make, model, but the predicted wear on the tire, right? And so the service centers can be a little bit more predictive in talking to the customers and saying, yeah, I mean, you're good. I mean, remember those old days of like where, at least in the US, where people would take a penny and then you'll put the penny in and say, okay, this is what it is, right? Yeah, you're good. But, it's going to change, right? Like, and so that's the other extreme where we are working with them, because if you have to think about it, right? Like in the manufacturing world, as I said, if you had the luxury of starting now, then of course you'll have everything modernized and put in. But a lot of it requires that plumbing. And I think that's something that we as Grid try to bring in it. But the important angle is coming back to that service angle, right?
Yeah.
Think about it, right? Now, as people drive more electric cars cause more tire wear, right? They are just heavy because of certain types of electric cars, because of the battery weight being distributed down the skateboard chassis that is used, more tire wear, right? So now, how does this tire manufacturer get better at serving them? Right? It's only possible when they're thinking of IoT and then bringing AI on top of it, because IoT gave them that data to act on it. Just going into Chat GPT and saying, tell me a better way to predict tire, I'm sure you'll get an answer, but what do I do with it, right? In this case, actually, it is like, yes, it's your data. It's not leaving your four walls. You are using it to better serve your customers, right?
Thank you. And I can see, Seb, you're nodding your head there in agreement with a couple of the things saying. Is there anything you'd like to add just in terms of in relation to servitization and its benefits of optimization?
Yeah, so
I guess. Sorry, Sebastian.
Sorry.
No, please, we'll go Seb and then we'll go Pavel next.
Okay,
sure, thank you. What I like about Shreyas about the photonics and vision technology on the IoT, I think what I wanted to add on that one is, imagine that you just can use that kind of technology to extend your life again, right? You extend life of your car, your tires, etc. because it starts advising you that, okay, maybe you should corner not that fast, right? Because then your tire wear will be, so it allows you to drive different agendas around sustainability. So the whole feedback loop, and I think that's also critical for the whole servitization supply chain, is ingesting that feedback that comes from different industrial IT or IoT solutions with vision or noise or radio into your, let's call it your data approach. It allows you to extend product lifecycle. It allows you to advise customer behavior. And of course, there are different use cases on improving your insurance or anything else, right? But that are more the scary stories for now. But there's also, from a sustainability footprint, I think that's where you really see a huge impact of servitization. Less landfill, improving extended life cycle of your products, from consumer to trucks to automotive. And I think that's really something that I like about the story of Rohit. So thanks for that.
If I can just ask a small follow-up question before Pavel jumps in, with traditional manufacturers, how do they determine the right mix of products and services in order to offer that servitization strategy? And like, what factors should they consider in making that decision?
So I come from a semiconductor company, so I've seen how we have experimented with servitization. So I still remember in the early days when we started shipping products that have, let's call it, opportunity to build, let's call it, services to our, let's call it, OEMs or ODMs, where we start building a platform around, okay, how do we service, how we commission, how do we commence, how do we identify what the product is doing at certain customers. That could be in the banking world, could be in the automotive world, could be in spatial engineering, a lot of use cases. The investment required to shift into servitization, you could still do with a certain product set. Often we see it starting with premium products, right? The nicest, fanciest car has the highest level of integration, automotive, audio solutions, etc. And then you will see it slowly being adopted into, let's call the different segments of elements. I think that allows you to grow with the needs of your customer. It also allows you to grow with the need of individualization towards your customers, the whole direct-to-consumer method. So while it's a big investment, while it's a huge transformation that's required on your business model, but I think with the back-end technologies, with the front-end requirement service, it allows you to make small steps very quickly. That is the only way to go for sustainability, for customer behavior, differentiating capabilities. We know it, so you need to start it years ago, but it still allows you to do it quite safely and test if your products are being adopted by those customers who are that. And we all have seen the adoption cycle of the mobile phone. If you then talk about servitization, that's a clear example around building a full ecosystem with integrated applications and off the services rather than doing simple calls. So that it will be successful, I'm fully open to that. But the investment to get full ecosystem place and full servitization, that's significant, but you can test very small bits.
Perfect. And I'll just allow Pavel to jump in and comment on the.
Yeah, well, thanks. Just a lot of work said and a lot of great things actually. And of course, the information, as Sebastian said, should be coming from the product, from the smart products, and the capture how the user are using them, and providing more insights to the product development teams. And I guess they can comment a lot more about this. I'm more coming from the supply chain perspective again, just shifting focus to that and building maybe again on what Sebastian said and Rohit also mentioned. It's a change, right? It's a cultural change, like, to get to understand that actually, we need to also build some kind of service books, for the consumers from our side, from supply chain perspective as well. So for that, we need to understand what the customers want, and then we have to be pretty close to them, so that putting them in the center as well of what we are doing. That's also a bit of a cultural shift as well, right? To make sure that we have good ways to capture information, to make sure that we are not afraid into looking into the consumer rankings or get insights from those rankings, for instance. And then make sure that we are using the e-commerce systems to capture this kind of insights as well. So and once we have the insights of the consumer, it's in a way so much easier to explain why, right? That what can help as Sebastian said, change management as well. If the request comes from the one that you're serving really with your products, the one that you are creating, trying to create the great experience, then the change journey typically becomes a bit faster as well.
And the risk of the go-to-market, so you don't so testing if your product has a market fit, but because you're developing based on customer feedback, direct customer feedback. It allows you to way more focus on your effective R&D investments rather than testing all kind of hypotheses. You still need to do Horizon 3 hypothesis testing, right? Because that's the next gen. But making sure you prioritize your R&D backlog, that's really helpful if you have a servitization with an integrated feedback loop. I think that allows you also to be very proactive on developing the right supply chain.
Right, exactly. And it's not, again, of course, it's important for the product development, definitely, we have to capture this, but it's also, I want to say, it's important for supply chain as well to be able to provide the services that the consumers expect. So we need to learn how to capture these insights, and it's a challenge. It might sound very easy, but it is a challenge to learn what exactly the consumers want.
I mean, I think just to quickly add on it, when talking to my past experience of bringing that servitization element, right? It is equally important in manufacturing organizations that the finance and the legal, and that goes back to Sebastian, the change management angle, right? Like they need to start thinking of how are we going to do this as a subscription service? How are we going to build those pricing models, right? Because that's out of the hands of supply chain, right? But it goes to the other elements as well. And I think those have to be those are equally important. It's not being quite the focus of the webinar, but I think from a change management perspective, those organizations are equally involved and should be equally involved in making sure that they're designing the right, promotions, right pricing structures for the products and services.
I think that's a very good point, and I just want to throw it back to you, Sam, to just talk a little bit about how you being at 4V for a long time, and we spoke earlier about the kind of digital transformation you had, but in terms of kind of that management and the adoption of that, how did 4V handle the process?
I mean, again, as we are utilizing this digital when it's needed, and with the foundation, at the level of acceptation, it is quite okay. Actually, we are reasonable. Again, we don't put digital everywhere for any purpose and so on. For example, we have a clear utilization of the digital for the demand planning. We are working with car manufacturer. The car maker are supposed to give a clear demand. However, with the mix and all the stuff like this, the demand is volatile. And with the existing tool today, with the digital tool, we are able to have a clear picture because we have vision about the market, we have vision about the production of the car maker and so on, and we can give a clear signal to our factory. So for this kind of things, I mean, the level of acceptation by the team is quite good. And also the results are good because we have the data and the tool are quite mature. So yeah, I think we are just maybe less revolutionary than my colleague, but yeah, as we are quite reasonable, the level of expectation is quite high.
Perfect. So that was all the questions that we actually had on for today. I was just wondering if any of our panelists had any final closing comments, just on the topic of being customer-centric and digitally driven. Nope. Perfect. So thank you for taking part in the webinar today. I'd just like to give a thank you again to Sam, Pavel, Rohit, and Sebastian for your time. For the participants in here, I really hope that you guys have had an informative webinar and been able to learn a lot. Just as a caveat, you will be able to access this recording as you have signed up for the webinar. So I'll let everyone say their goodbyes and thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.